Hi, my name's John Manners-Bell. I'm Chief Executive of TI Insight, a market research consultancy focused on logistics and supply chain. Well, they're very good prospects for adoption of autonomous vehicles. I think when people think about autonomous vehicles, they think about driverless vehicles, and they're not the same. We see that over the next few years there will be an introduction of semi-autonomous vehicles, which will mean that drivers are assisted in their driving function, but also that will mean that their driving will become a lot safer, which will have a big societal impact. It will also mean that the trucks will become far more connected, which will provide supply chain visibility. But of course, autonomous vehicles don't just relate to trucks as well, or indeed to cars. We can also see the development of drones, for example, which there's been a lot in the press about over the last few years. Now, although drones we don't see will have a mainstream impact, we see that there are areas of supply chain which they can have impact in, especially in geographies where there is a lot weaker transport infrastructure than there is in the UK, Europe or North America, for example. Movement of medications over long distances in Africa is one area where they're already being introduced. Or indeed taking spare parts out from ports to ships. So there are areas in which drones will become quite important. But of course, before these autonomous vehicles can be introduced, there are a number of different hurdles which will have to be overcome. Not least of these are legislation, for example, which will make it possible to move around in cars or trucks without drivers, or at least without the driver undertaking many of the functions of driving which they would have done in the past. There are issues such as insurance, for example, which will need to be overcome. If there is an accident, who's responsible? And there will be also public perception that will need to be overcome if they're to be adopted in a widespread fashion. So autonomous vehicles, we believe, will become mainstream over the next 10-15 years. We think they will become a very important part of logistics. But there are some barriers which will need to be overcome, whether those are legislation, whether those insurance, and of course public perception will be very important as well. So they may not become as fully widespread as many people, although they will fulfill a very important part of logistics industry.